Good. Hello, we're live. Are we live?
Yeah.
That's Yana Dyer saying "ya" in the background. And Kuslasara, I'll get them to come and wave in a second once more of us have gathered. But yeah, my name's Ksantikara here this week in breathing space, or in the basement shrine room at the London Buddhist Centre. Above us is our second in-person real life class is happening. So that's for people under 25, and I think there's 16 of them, well spaced out in the main shrine room, which if you've been tuning into our evening classes, you'll mainly have seen the evening shrine room. The main shrine room upstairs. And anyway, today we're downstairs in the basement in front of this triptych, this painting. But do say hello and say where you're from in the comments section if you haven't already. And then Radio 1 presenter style, I can say hello to you and your family. Anyone done that yet?
No.
No. Anyway, well, do write your name and where you're from in the comments box. You might have to make a YouTube account in order to do that. And I'd say hello. But we'll start in about 2-3 minutes. So so just at this point, I kind of want to say, so keep gathering, keep joining. Of course, I can only speak to those that have joined already. But yeah, keep joining if you haven't already. And if you have joined us, then, just make yourself comfortable. You could get yourself a glass of water, or you could get yourself a chair, cushions, etc. Maybe open the window if it's hot. Someone say hello to?
Kevin Delaney from beautiful sunny view on sea. Kevin Delaney, he's a Rumi fan.
Kevin Delaney, he's a Rumi fan?
Yeah.
Ah, interesting.
And we have Anne Shawley from Woodford Green.
Anne Shawley from Woodford Green. Hello, Anne. Woodford Green. Hello.
And Sarah from London Fields.
Sarah from London Fields. Hello.
And Sam from Rochester, Kent.
Sam from Rochester, Kent. So did Charles Dickens do things in Rochester? Yeah, I'm reading my first Charles Dickens book at the moment. Great Expectations. Has anyone read that? Kuslasara's nodding. Maybe some of you at home are nodding too. It makes me feel like a children's TV presenter saying, maybe some of you are nodding at home too. Anyone else say hello to Yana?
Simon from the Hartford Sangha.
Hello, Simon from the Hartford Sangha. Nice to have you with us too. So we've just got about a minute more and then we'll start. Yeah, so keep gathering round, make yourself comfortable, a glass of water if you need it. And we'll begin shortly.
We did have 16 people, now we have 15.
There we go.
Yeah. Here we go. Kevin Delaney studied Rumi at school, I think. Or Great Expectations. One of the six.
Hopefully Great Expectations.
And we've got Veronica also from Rochester.
Hello, Veronica.
And Darren from Peterborough.
Hello, Darren from Peterborough. I was on my first train, the first time I went on a train a couple of days ago, and it was going to Peterborough. I got off at Sandy. There you go, that's my connection to Peterborough. It's exciting. Okay, we'll just give it about 20 more seconds, and then we'll begin. Keep gathering, make yourself comfortable, and then maybe now we'll begin. Welcome everybody. My name's Ksantikara. I'm here with Yana Dyer, who's behind the camera doing the tech, and Kuslasara, who could come and wave to everybody. Hola, Kuslasara. My name's Ksantikara, and welcome to the Friday evening class at the London Buddhist Centre. This week coming to you from the basement shrine room. I was saying a minute ago that upstairs in the main shrine room, where we'd usually do these live stream from each evening, we have our second ever in-person class. Well, not second ever post-coronavirus situation. So upstairs in the main shrine room, there's a small group of people under 25 meeting for the first in-person sub-25 class for a few months. So we're down here in the basement shrine room, which I think in a way it suits what we're trying to do with this online Friday night class. I'm sitting here in, I don't know what it looks like on the camera, but from my point of view, it's much dimmer. It's got no natural light, this room. It's got a kind of cave-like feel to it. I feel kind of enclosed, and because it's not at street level, because we're underground, it's much quieter. So it's got a kind of quiet, subdued, slightly dim, slightly enclosed feeling. And then behind me is this beautiful image. Particularly when we were looking at the camera, when I was looking at the camera earlier, I really noticed the gold. I thought the gold really came out. You've got this triptych, this image in 3 panels with the Buddha in the middle. I won't say much about the other images or the other figures. So this is where we're going to be doing the Friday night class this evening. And the class is in 3 parts. So we'll meditate together in a moment. And then after that, Kuslasara is going to continue telling us the story of the Buddha. So last week, we meditated, we listened to a story of the Buddha. And last week we heard, basically the Buddha's life story, or the Buddha-to-be's life story, Siddhartha Gautama, from when he was born, right the way through to leaving his home, going on a quest, all the way to a few different explorations, or a few different places where he lived out this quest, mastering meditation, and then joining this band of brothers. And then we left it just as he was leaving to the Bodhi tree, where many of us will know where the enlightenment takes place. So Kuslasara will be telling us more about that part of the story of the Buddha's life, in the kind of second part of the evening. And then in the third part, we'll perform a ritual again together. Which last week I was in the room with Pranyamanas while he led the ritual, and I really enjoyed it. It felt like a treat to perform a ritual together. I don't know what it was like for people at home on the other side of the camera, but I've been surprised personally how performing ritual, which we'll say more about later on in the evening, chanting together, saying words in call and response together, and sort of orientating ourselves towards the shrine, towards the Buddha, towards the potential of enlightenment. Something of it does manage to carry through the lens in the pujas and rituals that I've been part of during the coronavirus situation, during this time where I haven't been able to communally gather and perform ritual together. So that gives you a sense of the shape of the class. We'll finish at 7:30, so we're only here for an hour and a half together. There'll be meditation, a story from Kuslasara, and then a ritual at the end. So I don't want to say too much about meditation. I don't know whether you know how to meditate, whether you've done it before, or whether you're brand new this evening to meditation. All I'll say about how to sit in meditation is just try and sit as comfortably as you can. We'll only be meditating for just over 20 minutes together. So there's probably not that much damage you can do. So just sit as comfortably as you can and try and commit to sitting still when we come to the point of meditating together. And the meditation practice that we'll do together this evening is called the Mindfulness of Breathing. And I thought rather than guiding you through it, as we often do in these evening sessions, I'd give you a sort of whistle-stop tour, a sort of speeded up version of teaching you the mindfulness of breathing. So this has its disadvantages, and I'd really recommend, if you're new to meditation, that you sign up for particularly one of our morning Zoom sessions. And then from Monday to Friday, you can find this on our website. You can learn meditation from scratch with more detail. But for now, I'm just going to give you the basics of the mindfulness of breathing. So the mindfulness of breathing is in 4 stages. And what we're doing is gathering our attention around our breath. We're becoming mindful of our breath. In a way, we're doing much more than that, but I'll leave it there for this evening. And it's in 4 stages. And in the first stage, we allow the breath at its natural pace to come in and out of our body. And what we do is we mark in our head the out breath with a number. So the breath comes in and out at its natural pace. 1. In and out, 2, in and out, 3. And we're placing the number at the end of each out breath. And we're seeing if we can get to 10, and then we start again at 1. So the breath comes in and out, 1, in and out, 2, all the way to 10, and then we start again at 1. What you might find is that you get distracted. What you'll probably find is that you get distracted. You might not make it to 10. You might make it accidentally to 20. All you do at those moments is you congratulate yourself for noticing that you're distracted. In a way, that's the art of meditation, noticing where your mind is and then bringing it back. The breath comes in and out, 1, in and out, 2. And then in the second stage, you place the number rather than at the end of the out breath. You mark the beginning of each in breath. 1, in and out. 2, in and out. Once again, seeing if you can count to 10, starting again at 1. And then in the third stage of this 4-stage practice, we leave the numbers behind us. So we've used these numbers to become aware of our out breath in particular, and then our in breath in the second stage. And so in this third stage, we just notice the full process of the breath in and out as it passes in and out of our body. So yeah, we leave the numbers behind. And in this third stage, we just follow the breath as it passes in and out of our body. And then in the fourth stage of the mindfulness of breathing, we focus our attention, we narrow our attention to the point where we first feel the breath enter the body. So it might be the nose, the lips, or the back of the throat. And we just kind of gather our attention there. And again, just become aware of the breath, hold that attention on the breath. So you can see it's got this kind of, it's got this dynamic journey to it, the mindfulness of breathing. We start with an awareness of the out breath and then the in breath. I often think the out breath has a kind of calming quality, a sort of taking into deep breath. That would be a deep breath in, a deep breath out kind of calms the body down. And then the second stage, we notice the in breath by placing a number just before we breathe in. It's got a kind of energizing quality. And then we broaden our awareness to notice the breath in all of our body. And then we narrow our awareness to where we first feel the breath enter our body. So in the course of the mindfulness of the breathing, our awareness of the breath moves around, in each stage. So maybe we'll just give that a go together. I thought I might say something else about meditation, but maybe we'll just give that a go together. So we'll just sit as comfortably as we can. And just for 20 minutes, I'll guide us in the mindfulness of breathing. I'll do a short reminder of each of the stages as we go through. But hopefully that was enough to just give it a go. If you're brand new to meditation this evening, then that was definitely a quick fire way of learning it. But let's just give it a go together. It's a simple practice, the mindfulness of breathing. In a certain sense, you can't go that wrong. You can't go that wrong. Just come into your body, build an awareness of your breath, and see what happens. And as we go through, I'll remind you of each stage. So just make yourself comfortable. Again, I'll dim the lights. So you're making yourself as comfortable as you can. Maybe like we just did in this room, we've dimmed the lights slightly, which you might not be able to tell, but we can. You could dim the lights in your room. If you're using a laptop, perhaps you could turn down the brightness of the screen. It's also really good to support your hands. You could put your hands on your lap, or perhaps place them on your thighs. And perhaps with your computer screen dimmed, your hands supported on your lap or your legs. You can close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, you can take a moment to settle into your posture. Perhaps you're sitting on a chair, maybe the floor or a cushion. So just give your weight up to the floor or the chair, sinking down into the ground. Nothing to do right now, but sit here. Sinking down into the ground, while also rising into the sky. You can take a moment to soften the muscles of your face. All day long we use our face to express ourselves. But there's no need to hold any facial expression right now. You can notice any holding on or tension around the eyes or your mouth. Are you clenching your jaw? Just see if you can smooth all that out. With your hands supported, perhaps in your lap or on your legs. You can really let the weight of your arms go. Widening the gap between your neck and your shoulder. Perhaps allowing your shoulder blades to drop down your back, opening your chest slightly. Are you holding on in your belly? Is there a sense of bracing or tension in your thighs, in your legs or your feet? Taking these moments before we begin the meditation to comb through the experience of your body, softening any tension or holding on where you can. Now starting to gather your awareness around your breath. There's no need to change the pace of your breathing. Noticing your breath as it passes in and out of your body. The mindfulness of breathing. In this first stage, placing a number at the end of each And if you find yourself getting distracted, you just congratulate yourself for noticing. Return to the body. Place your awareness back on your breath. Allow the breath to come in and out. 1. In and out. 2. Seeing if you can get to 10, and then starting again at 1. Placing a number in anticipation of the in-breath. leaving the numbers behind and cultivating a broad awareness of the breath as it passes in and out of your body. Narrowing your awareness and gathering it to the point where you first feel the breath enter your body. So yes, if you're new to meditation, that was just a short taste of the mindfulness of breathing. So yeah, do come to those morning sessions if you'd like to learn more. But yeah, for the meantime, opening your eyes if you haven't already, adjusting your body or your posture if you need to, and sitting comfortably. And we're now going to hear more of the Buddha's life story, picking up last week where we left off as the Buddha left to go to the Bodhi tree. I'll hand over to Kuslasara to tell us more of that story.
Great. Hello, everybody. Yeah, very, very nice to be joining you this Friday evening. And really nice to be having these sort of imagining them as like fireside evenings without the fire, where we sort of gather and relax and have stories and ritual, a sort of atmospheric evening. So yeah, really enjoying being part of bringing this to you. And thank you for the lovely meditation from Ksantikara. So yes, this is the story part of the evening. I find stories very, very potent things to affect my mind. I mean, they're very enjoyable, aren't they? And I think the story of the Buddha fits in with, there's lots of, famously, lots of patterns. Many stories fit into a few patterns, and there are a few patterns that template stories. And it's not that someone's designed those stories, it's more that stories emerge out of human experience. They're sort of crystallizations of human experience. And I really like examining or listening to stories in that way, like not as what is it? It's like not what's the author or what's this story trying to tell me or instruct me. It's more like what part of this story, what part of my experience is this story trying to describe? So I think good stories describe our experience. They don't instruct us on what to do. They describe what our experience is. So I just invite you to listen to this story in that way. I got thinking, what aspects of my own experience are we talking about in this story? At first glance, it's not very relatable, is it? It's someone, I think, I'm not sure if anyone's listening from India, but most of us who've tuned in so far, whose names I've heard, are in the UK. Possibly, sometimes we've had quite a few guests from India, but even there's this famous saying, isn't there? The past is another country. They do things differently there. I think that was L.P. Hartley who said that. So the past is another country. So even if you are in India, the land of the Buddha, we're talking about the past. So we're talking about another country, a different way of being. So at first glance, this story isn't describing our own lives. It's a different way of being. None of us have lived in that society that the Buddha lived in, that Ksantikara was describing last week, 2,500, roughly 2,500 years ago. So yes, it's not a description of how we live today, but do try to just feel into what aspects of this story are true for you, and how. And another way to think about it is every character that arrives in the story. Have you heard that thing of when you have a dream, even if there's different people in the dream, like you think about that dream as if, what do they represent? What if I dream about my friend or a car or any of these things, what part of myself is that dream describing? So listen to the different characters in this story as part of yourself, and just see. That's my invitation for you for an attitude to bring to these sessions about the Buddha. Just see what that might reveal. if anything. And if it doesn't reveal anything, I hope you just enjoy the story for story's sake. Yes, so we've had a bit of the story of the Buddha before he became the Buddha. So the Buddha wasn't born the Buddha. Buddha meaning awakened being or something like that. That was a name that was given to him describing his experience. So let's call him Gautama. And we left him last week having been brought up in a wealthy household, a household where he was destined to become a leader. And he saw that having his desires met, having wealth, having influence, having friends even around him, wasn't going to solve this problem that actually sickness, old age, and death come to everybody. Even if you get everything that you want in your life, what meaning does that have if you're just going to suffer nevertheless? So these things became incompatible in his being. He left home in search of a deeper truth, following the lifestyle of a religious wandering person. And he had various teachers, and I would say that those teachers were helpful to him up to a point, but he realized that they hadn't reached where he had this very, very strong intuition that there was something that he could understand that no one had yet, that he had met, had understood. So it's a story of a quest. And we've left the Buddha last week. He's decided to meditate under a Bodhi tree. Yeah, so the Bodhi tree is often where the Buddha is depicted. It's symbolic, pretty much, sort of a symbol for the Buddha. You can see the Bodhi leaves being depicted on the painting behind. So this is, in a way, this painting as well is describing the kind of approach that we're having with these stories. Like it's not untrue historically, but it's also a myth which probably reaches deeper parts of ourselves. Yes, so the Buddha has tried all sorts of meditation techniques, all sorts of practices, and what he's decided is to follow this intuitive memory that he's had of a childhood experience of relaxation and pleasure, spontaneous relaxation, pleasure, connectedness. And he's decided to sit under a Bodhi tree as his place of practice. And what's really important at this point is that the Buddha has enough conviction about what he's doing to make a vow. Yeah, so he makes a vow and he says something like, "Flesh may wither, blood may dry up, but I will not leave this spot until I have gained enlightenment." Yeah, so making a vow and seeing it through is something that we can only do when we know ourselves very, very well. And the Buddha, to be Gautama, we can say through his quest so far has explored many, many aspects of the human experience, from extreme pleasure to extreme self-punishment, actually, and strong discipline of mind. So he knows himself well enough to make this promise and to see it through. Yes, so the Buddha, you can then just picture him archetypally resting, poised, well-nourished. He's started eating just the right amount of food in order to keep his body healthy. He's well-nourished. He's sitting under the Bodhi tree, which is forming this sort of canopy of protection. So this natural protection, helping the Buddha keep his vow. And the Buddha spends, I don't really know how long, time in these stories is sort of stretchy and often comes in mythical numbers, 7 days, 7 weeks, this kind of thing. So the Buddha is meditating. There's this very delightful version of the life story of the Buddha, where it says, this very poetic version by a teacher called Ashvaghosha, an author. And he says that as he made this vow and sat down to meditate, the forest settled as well. So the forest settled around him. The trees didn't rustle, the beasts were quiet, the birds didn't sing. So nature was behind him. Nature was helping Gautama to fulfill his vow, which I find very beautiful. Sort of the nature has got these different aspects, terrible aspects, very brutal aspects, but also the healing aspects of nature were on the Buddha's side. So profound silence, the silence of the forest, the silence of a meditating mind. And from this silence, the Buddha is interrupted by a new character. So a new character enters stage left, a character called Mara. Okay, so Mara, we haven't met him yet in the story, but you might start to recognize Mara. So Mara is desires everything that Gautama doesn't want. Yeah, so Mara desires people to stay small in their outlook, to stay isolated in their outlook, to be confused. Mara loves confusion. Mara likes blame. Mara likes temptation. Yeah, so Mara is the forces of our mind, perhaps, or the forces that stop us from growing. Mara doesn't like growth. And Mara is very, very perturbed because he can sense this potential in Gautama. Yeah, this potential is radiating, and Mara's whole worldview is about to be shattered if the Buddha, if Gautama becomes a Buddha. So Mara summons his weapons. So first of all, what Mara does is to try to stop the Buddha becoming the Buddha. Is he attacks, he summons his hordes, he summons his armies, and in this description by Ashvaghosha, it's many, many beasts, all these foes, and absolutely surrounding the Bodhi tree. And there's pages and pages of sort of really detailed description of the kinds of beasts that Mara summons. So some of them have got 3 heads, some of them have got animal heads, they're all different colors, some of them breathe flame, they're carrying different weapons, clubs, tridents, and even some of them have got no knees, apparently. So there's beasts without knees and some without thighs, and some have got the knees the size for the pots of pots. So there we go. Something for your imagination as well. Some of them are spewing snakes. Some of them have got lions' heads, hyenas' heads, and they're all charging, and they're throwing things. They're throwing stones and fire, poisonous animals. And what happens in this? Well, pretty much nothing. It's what Mara might think of as an anticlimax. He summoned all this rage, and as the weapons are hurled, they just sort of turn to flowers. They turn to flowers just to sort of, as they're nearing this aura of Gautama, who's in a profound state of meditation, they turn to flowers, and their trajectory goes from shooting across the sky to floating down. Yeah, flowers, just petals, just floating down to the ground and resting on the ground. So Mara, disappointed, he's often described as dejected, Mara in these Buddha stories, has to go back to the drawing board, and he summons, he's got some beautiful daughters, so he summons his beautiful daughters. So obviously he's discovered that the Buddha that Gautama is previously heterosexual, so he summons his daughters, and he sends his daughters in to tempt Gautama, and they try to seduce him They use all their wiles that they possibly can. They flatter him, and he's completely, he doesn't open his eyes. It's not that he's ignoring them, he's just not swayed by them. He's just got no interest at all. And they have to go back to Mara and say, I'm sorry, Mara, we did our best. This hasn't worked. So Mara is super worried now. Like, he's employed his sons, commanding these angry foes, these angry hordes, and he's employed his daughters, and neither of them have had any success. So what to do? So Mara decides to go in himself, and Mara has a different tactic. Yeah, so Mara has a different tactic. What the Mara does is he goes up to the Buddha and he just starts whispering in his ear, and what he says is things like, "Oh, come on, you can't really do this. Like, this isn't really you. Who do you think you are anyway?" So Mara becomes this insidious voice of doubt, whispering in the Buddha's ear, trying to undermine the Buddha's practice. So he's saying, who are you to claim this, to burst through into this new understanding? And the Buddha, for the first time out of all these three Mara's attacks, makes a movement. So what the Buddha does is he's sitting in meditation and he puts one hand down to the earth. Yeah, so this is grounding gesture. He touches the earth and he calls up the earth as a witness. And what the earth can witness, and this is symbolized in a beautiful earth goddess rising out of the ground. So earth is stable, it's present, it's beneath us, and the earth goddess says, I can attest to the that the Buddha, this person is the right person. Over lifetimes, many things have happened on the earth's surface. I have witnessed them all. And so the earth is the ultimate witness to Gautama's positivity over lifetimes, his practice of kindness, his ethical life, his purification, you could say, over many lifetimes, which have led him to be able to claim this spiritual attainment, for want of a better word, to claim this breakthrough. And it's said that this simultaneously as he touches the earth, Gautama becomes enlightened. So it's all sort of, as he touches the earth goddess appears, attests to his ability, his understanding, and the final seeing through, which is another way to describe enlightenment, happens. So this is the realm of visionary experiences. So ordinary descriptions don't really evoke it for us. And what this man, this practitioner, was experiencing was probably, if we were watching, we might have a sense of something, but what we'd actually see is a skinny, dusty guy in a hot country under a tree. We wouldn't probably be attuned to all these forces, but they describe the inner life, they describe the inner experience. And what I find very interesting is that, so we have the earth goddess saying, yes, over hundreds of lifetimes, Gautama in many different forms has been working towards this. And yet at the last minute, Mara's hordes are at their strongest. Mara's wiles, his trickery is at its most extreme. So I don't know if you've ever been about to step into something new, take a step into the unknown, maybe take on more responsibility, or you made a big decision about how to do something, and whether then at first you think, yes, I will do this, I will make this step, and then the doubts come in, and we get a sort of different onslaught of voices saying all the reasons why we shouldn't do it. Yeah, all the reasons why we shouldn't do it. And it's like, in those moments, it can be as though we lose the ground beneath us. Yeah, so we feel like we're ready to do something, and it feels then suddenly all these voices of doubt, undermining voices, can come in, and they're very, very strong, very, very convincing, in fact. And if we lose this sense of the ground beneath us, then we'll just listen to those voices. We'll just go with the fear. We'll just go, yes, I'm too frightened. You're right, I can't do this. Or actually, I was going to do that, but isn't that looks really beautiful, I'm going to do that. Easier thing, more familiar thing, more pleasurable thing. So we have this breaking through. And what happens as the Buddha touches the earth and Mara is ultimately dejected? I mean, he does appear in later Buddha stories. He can't quite leave the Buddha alone. He's this sort of comical character. He's always hanging around at the edges. But he has no power over the Buddha himself. And what has happened is that Gautama has now seen through all of conditioned existence. So what that means is that he doesn't rely on anything that's unreliable. He doesn't rely on anything happening, going his way. He doesn't rely, he doesn't take refuge, is the Buddhist way of speaking, in things that can't hold out, can't deliver on a promise. Yeah, so he understands that little pleasures won't satisfy. He understands that blaming people, that ill will is only causing pain. And it's not that he understands these things in his head. He understands it with his whole being. His whole being, all of his energies are completely transformed. And what happens with this understanding that he's had into that there's nothing to hold on to, his understanding that there's nothing in conditioned existence to hold on to, everything's ungraspable. And what happens then is that there's just love. Yeah, so there's no space for self-protection. There's no clinging to one's own separate ego identity. And when that's gone, the only response is love. So yes, so that's a kind of lead up to this point of enlightenment, and you can describe it as a point, as a sort of very, very crucial turning point. But the enlightenment experience is also this unfolding myth, and there's things that happen afterwards. So that I'm just going to bring in a couple of other archetypal characters. So there are a few more stories in this chapter. And so the Buddha is perhaps, he stays and he's dwelling in this new way of being, a new kind of consciousness that no human being, the Buddhist tradition says, no human being has ever reached this before. So the Buddha's dwelling in it, exploring it, you could say. What is it like? And there's a pang of regret that what he says is so subtle. His understanding is so subtle, so refined, And what he recalls of human nature is that everybody's bustling around, busy, getting things, trying to achieve things, buying, selling, falling in and out of love, fighting, and it's of such a different order to his own experience. He sort of thinks, "Oh, is there a way to communicate? Is there a way to communicate what I've experienced?" And he wonders if there is. He doubts that there is. It seems like a huge ocean between him and normal human experience. And then a character called Brahma Sahampati, which is a fantastic word, a set of two words. Brahma Sahampati appears. He comes out. He's a sort of god character who rules over many, many worlds. And Brahma Sahampati is a sage, and he says to the Buddha, there are beings with but little dust in their eyes. There are beings with but little dust in their eyes. So Brahma Sahampati is saying, there are people who you will be able to communicate to. Don't despair. Don't keep this to yourself. Communicate. And we can think of this character, Brahma Sahampati, this sort of wise old man archetype, as being a reflex, the compassionate action of the Buddha. And what happens actually is the Buddha, as Brahma Sahampati is communicating with him, the Buddha has a vision, very, very beautiful vision as well, of a pond of lotuses, and the lotuses are of different colors, white, blue, and red. And lotus flowers grow from the mud. So they grow, their roots are in the mud, they grow up through the water gets clearer near the surface. They burst through and they open when the stem is a little way out of the water. So he sees human beings as lotuses. Some are still right in the mud, some are bursting up near the surface, and some are just about ready to open into full bloom. So with this vision, he understands that humans are all moving towards what he has moved towards, what he has achieved. Yes, so I'm running out of time. I've got, so I've got one more thing to. Shall I say it? Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry to the next person, Ksantikara. So we've got one more character. And so the Buddha's decided to teach, but he still needs to absorb his enlightenment experience. He's not ready to go out and communicate. So he's sitting there, and then the monsoon starts. And once again, the healing aspect of nature is activated. So a snake, a king cobra, the king of the snakes, the king of the nagas, which is the mythical snakes, comes as the Buddha's about to get drenched, and he draws up his hood, so he's much bigger than the Buddha, and he protects the Buddha through 7 days or weeks, I'm not sure, definitely 7 days or weeks of rain. So the Buddha is completely protected by the cobra's hood. And at the end of that time, the sun comes out, the cobra uncurls itself and turns into a golden 16-year-old boy who salutes the Buddha and then walks away. So no words are exchanged. And let's just leave it with that mysterious image. The Buddha is now fully awakened. He's being protected by this huge cobra who turns into a golden youth, salutes him, and walks away. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to Ksantikara, and we will move into the ritual part of the evening.
Thanks very much, Kuslasara. It really evoked, a story for us, and also covered almost like lots of different micro stories in a very short period of time. Lots of different characters and episodes, all sorts going on. Which I think is probably the feature of a good story: is different characters, metaphors, images, colours. Stuff that we don't quite understand, some stuff that we do. So yeah, thank you very much, Kuslasara. So yeah, what we'll do with the last part of the evening is we'll perform a ritual together. But just before we'll do that, I'll just say at this point rather than at the end, so do donate some money if you can. Usually we'd say that at the end, but yeah, do donate some money if you can. And also in a few weeks' time, we've got a summer retreat coming up on the 2nd of August. So I won't say much about that either, but be a really good thing to join in with. And the London Buddhist Centre is doing that in conjunction with other Buddhist centres. So yeah, do donate some money if you can, and do think about booking on our summer retreat on the first week of August. But with that out of the way, we can start to turn our minds towards ritual, towards puja. I was just thinking, well, one of the things that Kuslasara said at the beginning of the story was, something of this class maybe being about gathering around a fire. I like the maybe without the fire actually there. It'd be quite nice to actually gather around a fire, sit quietly together, gaze into the flames. Perhaps that's meditation. Then maybe someone starts telling a story. That was Kuslasara's part. And then we'll perform a ritual. And I've recently subscribed to a current affairs magazine. I won't tell you which one it is. It might not be very popular, actually. Might not be on the right side of politics that a Buddhist should be. Anyway, I've subscribed to a current affairs magazine, and I was reading in there about this government bursary or funding or bailout fund for theatres, for the arts. And I used to work in theatre myself. I then came and worked at the London Buddhist Centre for a while, and at the moment I don't work anywhere. But I worked in theatre for about 4 or 5 years. And really appreciated it. In fact, I fell in love with theatre as a teenager, and then went to the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, which is a bit of a mouthful, but I went there to study theatre producing chiefly. And I really fell in love with theatre as a teenager, and it's continued into my adult life, this going to a place, gathering with other people, and engaging in the imagination and acting something out. And as I learned about theatre at university, I became more and more aware of its roots, particularly in the ancient Greek theatre, very akin to ritual Greek theatre, ancient Greek theatre. They would use masks, they would often use fire. Priests would be involved in the theatre as much as writers, or as much as philosophers, as much as just members of the public. It's a real act of coming together as a community, as a culture, and enacting the deeper threads of being human, or the stories, as we've just been hearing, of being human, evoking nature and things like that, just the story we were just listening to. And in a way, my dissatisfaction with the London theatre scene, as I was involved at the time, brought me to the London Buddhist Centre when I was 21. So I'd been going to theatre 3 or 4 times a week and not quite finding the universal appeal, or the story, or the gathering, or the magic, the sort of je ne sais quoi. I hadn't been finding it enough. It wasn't what I was really sort of deeply looking for. And when I went on my first retreat with the London Buddhist Centre a few months after coming here for the first time, we performed a ritual together. We gathered around a shrine, an image of a Buddha, the Buddha, with candles, and the lights were dimmed. And the person leading the retreat started saying things, and I had to say them back. And I thought it was all rather alien, a bit bizarre, strangely sort of Indian for sort of retreat happening on the border of Wales or around that area. And I don't know, though, as the days went by, I was on this retreat for 10 days, I started to really really started to awaken my imagination and to galvanize parts of me that needed to be galvanized. So something akin to theatre ritual, I think, or at least for me, it was what I was searching for in theatre. It's what I was searching for in theatre. And coming back to this current affairs thing of there's something intrinsically valuable about the arts or about theatre or about gathering or about music, to the point where, a government that probably doesn't have loads of money to spend wants to give its money or needs to give its money to protect them at this time. So that partly might be a thing about needing the money from tourism or whatever. But also I just think there's something about humanity that needs art and culture and magic and story and mystery. So that's what we're going to do together for the rest of the evening. So we're going to do this in the form of a puja. And what will happen is I will say words and then you'll say them back. So in this room, I'll say them and then Kuslasara and Yanadaya will say them back. But you can join in with them. And maybe you're in a shared house, or maybe you're watching this on the sofa with a partner next to you who's doing something else on their laptop. If you're able to go somewhere on your own, great. If you have very thin walls and would be embarrassed to say strange Buddhist things out loud, maybe give it a go, maybe just whisper, or maybe say it in your head and just move your lips in response to what I say. And just like the theatre, as I was talking about earlier, theatre requires you to join in. You just have to join in. And if you can judge it afterwards. So on my way back from seeing a play, I would talk with my friend how it was. But while it's happening, you don't talk to your friend about how it is, unless it's really, really bad. And then maybe you do. But you have to kind of suspend your disbelief. You know that the actors aren't really the people they say they are. They're pretending. And so I think there's something of that when joining in with puja. So just for the next 20 minutes, just join in. When I say something, say it back. Suspend your disbelief, suspend your rational mind. Don't worry too much about what you're saying. It's not a sort of magic spell contract that binds you to being a Buddhist or some kind of God figure or something like that. So we can think of this as theatre. Yeah, so we'll perform this puja together. I'll say verses and you say them back. At one point, there'll be a reading from Yanadaya. And then at the very end, there'll be a mantra. So I'll start a mantra, a chant, and I encourage you to join in. And in this room, what we'll do is we'll each individually go up to the shrine and we'll make an offering during the mantra. So you could do that if you like. If you have a shrine in your room, perhaps light it now. And during the mantra, you could go up to the shrine and traditionally you would bow and make an offering, a sign of receptivity, of opening up to this universal, beautiful, mysterious ideal of enlightenment, just as Kuslasara just evoked to us in the story. And then the mantra will die out, and I'll ring a bell, and that will be the end of the puja. But what I'll do is I'll then quietly get up and I'll extinguish the candles and sort of leave, as it were. And at that point, the live stream will end. So we'll perform the puja. There'll be a mantra. Do make offerings if you can. If you don't have a shrine, well, maybe you can just bow to this shrine through your computer screen. But at least you can chant along with us. The mantra will fade. I'll ring a bell and then I'll extinguish the candles and leave, giving you a bit of time to sit quietly if you wish. Okay, so if you have a chair or a meditation stool or something with you, you can sit back in your meditation posture now. And a minute ago, when I could see the screen, there was just shy of 30 people. So you can just imagine that as best as we can through the internet, through this webcam that I'm looking at you through, we're just now gathering together, settling down into our meditation posture as we gather together around the fire, around the shrine, around this image of Buddhahood, of enlightenment. And we'll perform a simple ritual together. So just closing your eyes if you haven't already. Taking a moment to settle down into your seat. Perhaps evoking in your imagination the story that Kuslasara shared with us this evening. Perhaps a particular episode or character stands out. The Bodhi tree, the insidious Mara character, perhaps touching the earth and the earth goddess appearing as a witness. Perhaps this mysterious giant cobra that Kuslasara said very little about. Maybe just calling to mind those images, opening up to their mystery. The sevenfold puja. Firstly, worship. With Mandarava, blue lotus and jasmine.
With Mandarava, blue lotus and jasmine.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
I pay honour to the princes of the sages.
I pay honour to the princes of the sages.
So worthy of veneration.
So worthy of veneration.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
Sweet and penetrating.
Sweet and penetrating.
I make them offerings of food, hard and soft.
I make them offerings of food, hard and soft.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
Festooned with golden lotus.
Festooned with golden lotus.
On the pavings sprinkled with perfume.
On the pavings sprinkled with perfume.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers.
Salutation. As many atoms as there are.
As many atoms as there are.
In the 1,000,000,000 worlds.
In the 1,000,000,000 worlds.
So many times I make reverent salutation.
So many times I make reverent salutation.
To all the Buddhas of the 3 eras.
To all the Buddhas of the 3 eras.
To the Siddharma.
To the Siddharma.
And to the excellent community.
And to the excellent community.
I pay homage to all the shrines.
I pay homage to all the shrines.
And places in which the Bodhisattvas have been.
And places in which the Bodhisattvas have been.
I make profound obeisance to the teachers.
I make profound obeisance to the teachers.
And those to whom respectful salutation is due.
And those to whom respectful salutation is due.
Going for refuge. This very day.
This very day.
I go for my refuge.
I go for my refuge.
To the powerful protectors.
To the powerful protectors.
Whose purpose is to guard the universe.
Whose purpose is to guard the universe.
The mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
The mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge.
Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge.
In the Dharma they have ascertained.
In the Dharma they have ascertained.
Which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
Which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
Likewise in the host of bodhisattvas,
Likewise in the host of bodhisattvas,
I take my refuge.
I take my refuge.
Confession of faults. The evil that I have heaped up,
The evil that I have heaped up,
through my ignorance and foolishness,
through my ignorance and foolishness,
evil in the world of everyday experience,
evil in the world of everyday experience,
as well as evil in understanding and intelligence.
as well as evil in understanding and intelligence.
All that I acknowledge to the protectors,
All that I acknowledge to the protectors,
standing before them,
standing before them,
with hands raised in reverence,
with hands raised in reverence,
and terrified of suffering.
and terrified of suffering.
I pay salutations again and again.
I pay salutations again and again.
May the leaders receive this kindly,
May the leaders receive this kindly,
just as it is with its many faults.
just as it is with its many faults.
What is not good, O protectors,
What is not good, O protectors,
I shall not do again.
I shall not do again.
Rejoicing in merit. I rejoice with delight
I rejoice with delight
in the good done by all beings,
in the good done by all beings,
through which they obtain rest,
through which they obtain rest,
with the end of suffering.
with the end of suffering.
May those who have suffered be happy.
May those who have suffered be happy.
I rejoice in the release of beings
I rejoice in the release of beings
from the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
from the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
I rejoice in the nature of the bodhisattva
I rejoice in the nature of the Bodhisattva
and the Buddha,
and the Buddha,
who are protectors.
who are protectors.
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment
and the teaching,
and the teaching,
those oceans that bring happiness to all beings
those oceans that bring happiness to all beings
and are the abode of welfare of all beings.
and are the abode of welfare of all beings.
Entreaty and supplication. Saluting them with folded hands,
Saluting them with folded hands,
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma
for those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
for those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
With hands folded in reverence,
With hands folded in reverence,
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter nirvana.
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter nirvana.
May they remain here for endless ages,
May they remain here for endless ages,
so that life in this world does not grow dark.
so that life in this world does not grow dark. As a fletcher straightens the arrow, so the man of understanding makes straight the trembling, unsteady mind, which is difficult to guard and difficult to restrain. As a fish threshes from side to side when taken from one abode to another and cast on dry land, so the mind throbs and vibrates with the strain as it abandons the domain of Mara. The mind is frivolous and difficult to control, alighting on whatever it pleases. It is good to tame the mind. A tamed mind brings happiness. The mind is extremely subtle and difficult to grasp, alighting on whatever it pleases. Let the man of understanding keep watch over the mind. A guarded mind brings happiness. Far-ranging and lone-faring is the mind, incorporeal and abiding in the cave of the heart. Those who bring it under control are freed from the bonds of Mara. His wisdom does not attain to perfection, whose mind is unsettled, who is ignorant of the real truth, and whose faith wavers. There is no fear for someone who is awake, whose mind is uncontaminated by craving and unperplexed, and who has given up vice and virtue. Perceiving the body to be fragile like a clay pot, and fortifying the mind as though it were a city, with a sword of wisdom make war on Mara. Free from attachment, keep watch over what has been won. Before long, this body, devoid of consciousness, will lie rejected on the ground like a useless bundle of sticks. Whatever foe may do to foe, or hater to hater, greater is the harm done to oneself by a wrongly directed mind. Neither mother nor father, nor any other relative can do one as much good as a perfectly directed mind.
Transference of merit and self-surrender. May the merit gained
May the merit gained
in my acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. My personality throughout my existences. My possessions. And my merit in all three ways. I give up without regard to myself. For the benefit of all beings. Just as the earth and other elements. Are serviceable in many ways. To the infinite number of beings. Inhabiting limitless space. So may I become. That which maintains all beings. Situated throughout space. So long as all have not attained. To peace. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni 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 Swaha.